Explore your identity with Tayamika. Hello and welcome to another episode of Explore Your Identity. Here we delve into conversations about various aspects of our identity that have shaped who we are today, both positive and negative. I'm thrilled to have another amazing guest with me here today. I'm your host, Tayamika, and my guest today is Francesco Mellina, a photographer who has captured some of the most iconic members of the Liverpool music scene, as well as the international scene. Welcome, Francesco, and thank you for being my guest here today. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Oh, brilliant. I am looking forward to this conversation.
So am I.
So, I always like to start with a little bit about your background and anything. Is there anything in particular that stands out to you that you feel has influenced or shaped who you are today?
Okay, first my background. I'm originally from southern Italy, a small town in southern Italy. And at a young age, I left my hometown and I traveled around Europe for a number of years. And ultimately, I arrived in Liverpool in the mid-70s. And the thing that stands out for me is that I always wanted to be in Liverpool from a very young age. So once I arrived in Liverpool, it was as if I was home.
Oh, nice. So what made you feel at home in Liverpool? And what age were you actually when you left?
I was 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I traveled around Europe for a number of years, exploring the various cultures around Europe. Also went to the Far East. And I was really interested in discovering, really, you know, as a young boy, I was always fascinated by travel, by film, by glamour. So these were the notions that I had in my head. But deep down, I always felt, because once I discovered the music of the Beatles, I knew that Liverpool was the only place for me. So when I landed in Liverpool eventually, I felt like I was home. It felt totally familiar to me.
Wow. Oh, that's good.
Yes, absolutely fantastic.
So you mean by the age of 16, you already had a passion for photography?
Yes,
or
I had a passion.
Was it like a journey getting there?
No, I had a passion for music, in particular from the very young age, probably 6 or 7 years old. Mm-hmm. I was fascinated by music always, and I was fascinated by things that were glamorous. And so the closest thing that I had in my youth to glamour was to go and watch movies in my local cinema. And I was fascinated by, cinematography, hence, the photography of it, without realizing consciously at the time that that's what I was really liking. But I was always drawn by glamour. I was fascinated by the beauty of things.
And take me back to like your family structure. What was it like?
Well, I come from a family where there's 4 brothers, myself included, and I have 2 sisters. And so, we are the classic, you would say, of that era. We are the classic Southern Italian family, large family or largish. There were families that were much larger than mine. And so that was really, my family life. And of course, it's a kind of rotated around, the home and family and, the support network of my uncles, my aunties. So my childhood was in many ways idyllic, really.
And is there anything within that you feel kind of led you to the path of, here you are traveling, ending up in Liverpool?
To be honest, no, not within that family network, because there was nobody within my family unit that had any notion of creativity or art. Mm-hmm. So it was just something that I was born with, I feel anyway.
Yes.
And my interests were just, natural to me.
So here you are, you've arrived in Liverpool. And what's next?
Well, what's next is that, my fascination for Liverpool had been achieved. By that, I mean that my fascination for being here had been achieved. So the next step was for me to start implementing, what I wanted to do, i.e. to be culturally involved in the fabric of the city, in the cultural fabric of the city. And to that extent, I started studying photography at the art college. I did 3 years there. And I was working out, as well.
Was it on Metal Street or
No,
somewhere
it was on
else?
Hope Street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, the building is still there.
Yeah.
So I did that. And as soon as I became familiar and well-versed with a camera, I started taking photographs. And then I found out about this amazing club called Eric's Club in Matthew Street, where essentially everything took place. So all the major bands of the time were playing down there. And so I started going down there, taking photographs, and then I developed, a career as a music photographer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And was it easy for you?
No.
Because I don't think photography is an easy journey.
No.
I guess any creative industry. But...
No, correct. Any creative, industry is not easy. But of course, being young always helps. So I was young. I was tenacious. I still am, but I was even more tenacious in my youth.
Yeah.
And I made a conscious effort and I made a conscious decision that because I was taking the photographs, I knew that I had somehow, my next step, I thought, what is it that I want from this? I wanted my photographs to be published in the music press. So in order to achieve that, I had to travel every fortnight, at my own cost and everything, to London with my portfolio and just literally barging into offices. I mean, literally opening doors and barging into the offices and just made myself seen and heard. And initially, people didn't particularly like me. But, because I was so tenacious, I went there religiously every fortnight. Then, slowly they started to like me because they could see something in me.
And how do you feel like, because you've had quite a journey and you've seen the change in technology and how photography has been on this journey from literally like film to digital to the metaverse, I guess. How do you feel like the time that you were on the music scene and taking these photos and today's world, like how does that compare or contrast?
Well, I mean, obviously working with film is, you're limited for a start because, each roll of film would only have 36 frames. So when you took photographs, you had to be very mindful that you only had 36 frames. And so in those days, if I took 36 shots of a band, that would be enough. So whilst there is a limitation with film, there is also the opposite side that you become more aware and therefore you have to be more careful and work really in getting the picture first time around.
Yeah.
And there's also the quality of it, which cannot be, repeated really. I mean, I know that digital works well, but you cannot repeat, you cannot compete really with film and digital, for me anyway.
Yeah.
I think the film has a certain appeal, a certain romance to it. And they're two completely different things because film is essentially chemistry. That film has chemicals in it. You got to develop that film with chemicals in order to then get an image.
Yeah.
With digital, it's you just take the photo and you can take as many as you want and it's there instantly. So, but there is also a positive in that because, you take a photo, you don't like it, you delete it. So that is the positive. But I think that in many ways, it kind of, that's my personal opinion, it stifles creativity in a lot of people. That kind of thing that you had to do it properly, go home, develop the film, then you had to print the image on paper. All this process with digital is totally eliminated. I suppose Photoshop is the equivalent of being in a dark room.
Yeah.
But again, the process is totally different. Now, both have their own,
pros and cons.
Pros and cons, correct. But I think the film has a greater, the quality is always much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing from this conversation so far is it took quite a bit of determination, perseverance, you knocking on doors and letting yourself in. I like that attitude. Yes. So take me on that journey.
Well, I mean, I as I said, you have to be determined in everything you do in life.
Mm-hmm.
That's my mantra. I always say it. Whatever you want to do, you have to be determined. Now, if people knock you back, that's okay. I was told time and time again, for an entire year of me going to London, knocking on people's doors, meeting all the features editors, and they tell me no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I would come back. And then eventually there came a point where, because I used to leave my prints with them, so whatever bands are photographed from Liverpool or whatever, I would give them prints, which I paid for myself. But I knew that they had to buy, they had a rule that they have to keep. They had to keep those prints. Whoever went in there and left prints with them, they had to file them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I knew that.
Yeah.
So I had my lucky break when it came a year down the line, and the Liverpool bands started to succeed. So they had to feature the Liverpool bands in the paper. And so all of a sudden, the features editor who I had met probably a year earlier remembered that, that fellow Francesco from Liverpool, we got his photographs, why don't we use one of his?
Because they were that good.
Well, whatever. The point is they used my photos.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, one day, I'm in the new Musical Express, best known as the NME, and my photos are in there. And once they accepted me, then every other paper accepted me as well, because they were the leading light within the music industry. And so the other publication thought, well, if Francesco is good enough for the NME, he's good enough for us. And that's how my break came. But that came through because I was persistently going and didn't give up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at one point they started to admire me for being so bloody minded.
So I want to celebrate some of your achievements. So I guess maybe you can give the audience and listeners a little glimpse into the world of some of the iconic photos that you took or people.
Yeah. Well, I photographed, most notably, most of the audience will probably know, photographed U2, who at the time were only about 18, 19 years of age, and they were more or less unknown, particularly outside of Ireland. I photographed them here in Liverpool. And then there were major bands like, the Ramones, The Clash, Talking Heads, Kraftwerk, Pretenders, I can't remember, Elvis Costello, The Jam, Roxy Music, and many, many, many others. So they were some of the bands that I photographed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I also managed a very successful band called Dead or Alive. I had my own record label. And then, after I finished working in the music industry, I went back to photography. I had a major exhibition in the National Museums of Liverpool. I was made honorary Scouser by the Lord Mayor of Liverpool.
Nice.
And I have 2 books out currently, one called Revealed. The other one is called Last Night at Wayne Casino. And so, I've been published, my photographs rather, have been published worldwide in almost every country. Within the Western world.
Yes. And what about Pete Burns? You didn't mention Pete Burns.
Yes, well, Pete Burns was the singer in Dead or Alive, and I, as I said, I was their manager, and I became friends with him, and I started photographing him. And then one day, out of the blue, he just asked me, would I be his manager? And I said, yeah. And he was shocked by my instant reaction. He said, don't you want to think about it? I said, no, why would I want to think about it? If I have to think about it, then that means I don't believe in it. Mm-hmm. And he said, wow, I love that answer. And so we got on, very well. I got them a record deal with a record label called CBS Records, which is now Sony Records.
Yes.
And, we went and eventually had the #1 hit with You Spin Me Round.
Amazing. Amazing. What are you currently... what's your current path at the moment? I know at the end of last year you had the exhibition.
Yeah, there was a collective exhibition in Germany in a place called Lunenburg, outside Hamburg. This was 12 artists from Liverpool, myself included, which was really successful. I had also last year, there was an exhibition in Italy in a town called Rovereto, and that was very good too. And currently I'm working on a new book, which is going to be called Total Stranger, and it's all about Pete Burns and Dead or Alive. This book will feature on-scene photographs of the band and Pete. So it will include at least 150 images.
Oh, wow.
And then in September, I will have a major exhibition, which will last 4 months.
And where's that one?
That will be in Port Sunlight. The venue, I'm not certain yet because they haven't decided yet. It'll be in Port Sunlight, and it's in association with the National Museums of Liverpool. So that would be, from the 21st of September until the 19th of January 2025.
And how about the one you had? Was it in Warrington?
That was Wigan.
Wigan.
So I had that last year also in September for a whole month. I did an exhibition in Wigan, and this was arranged by Wigan City Council. So it was a magnificent exhibition. It was an outdoor exhibition, and in the middle of the town, right in the city centre, and it was beautiful. It really was. They had these amazing panels, which were like 7 foot high by 4 foot wide, and so anybody could see it, because even if you didn't know anything about it, just for curiosity, you go and look. So it had a magnificent reaction, and it was a highly successful exhibition as well.
I've got a question for you. So, if I hired you to take photos of my designs, and you agree to take them, I pay you for the photos, and I go on to use these photos for different things, which is mainly like maybe commercial, like in terms of putting them up, say, on my website, and people can buy the items. But then out of that set of photos, there's one particular iconic one, and I decide to put it on a T-shirt and sell the T-shirt. Yeah,
you would have to pay me.
I would have to pay you?
Yeah.
Like what, for every T-shirt, or how does that work?
Well, you have to pay me a royalty.
Okay.
Because this is where it becomes a little bit, weird. Because once you're paying me for that session, I always stipulate that what you're paying me for is for the use of what you're telling me it is. So at the time. So, and I haven't written down. So if you're saying to me that you want this photo shoot for the purpose of using on your website or in your shop even, right? Well, the fee that I'm charging you is based on that. But if you then, if you don't disclose the fact that you want to do a T-shirt, well, then I have every right to say, well, hang on, you're going to have to pay me a royalty on that.
Okay, even though, like you said, I can use the images at the time.
Yeah, but each job is different, isn't it? So, for example, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Some people come to me and license my images, right? License one of my images, and they wanted to use it for within a book. Now, they then decide that they want to use that same image to promote that book online. Well, I make it clear that they cannot do that because it's 2 different platforms. So if they want to use it online, then they got to pay me the same fee. But a T-shirt is a commercial endeavor, isn't it? So therefore, we would have to an agreement that says that you pay me, I don't know, 5%, 10%, or whatever it is.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is it's best, because not all photographers do it the way you've just said it, where they're quite specific about when you actually do this transaction. Most photographers are not that specific that, okay, you can only use it for this purpose that you've hired me for.
Forgive me, but they should.
Yeah.
And I think it's their fault if they don't.
So what I'm hearing is you always have to make sure that you've got rights to use the photos for all the different things.
Correct.
Okay.
It is important that you see, I'm always, if I do, whenever I deal with somebody, when it comes to working with whoever it is, I always make it clear, even if they're friends, I make it clear from the very beginning. I say, look, this is what you're engaging me for, right? This is what you're telling me you're using it for. So therefore, that's okay. You have every right. You paid me, fine. But if you then go and do this and this and this and this, well, that's not what we agreed. It's not what we agreed.
So it's about the
what you pay me for, well, of course it is.
So if I agreed with you from the word go that we both have rights to use the photos for whatever we want, then that's the agreement.
Yeah, no, but I wouldn't agree with it.
But if you said yes,
well, if I said yes, then it's my fault.
Okay, but then you can't turn around and say that
no, I
the
wouldn't,
photos
but then,
belong to you.
No, because I've been a fool.
Okay.
But you learn these things as you work in the industry. And you see because the media platforms are so wide, so you got to make sure they understand. For example, there was a film that used some of my photographs, and they wanted to use in the book by the same name of the film. And I said, well, you can't do that. And I said, well, we can't. No, you can't. And if you do, I'll get my lawyer on you. Because you signed this agreement for that film. You pay me for the film. You didn't pay me to put it in a book. The book is a separate issue.
Oh, that's interesting.
So long as they, but they were fine. They understood. They said, no, Francesco, you're right. We agree. We should pay you. So they pay me for the book, and they pay me for the film. But that's okay. It's not amazing. It's not like it's £1 million. But I think one has to understand, when in commercial terms, you have to be careful because, people will take advantage no matter what. They will take advantage if they can.
Yes, that is true. Yeah. No, I've had to learn this with my fashion business in terms of all these rights that the photographer has. And,
it's not being big-headed. It's not being, it's just... you're safeguarding your own interests, aren't you? Just like you would.
Your own intellectual property.
Correct, intellectual property, which is your own interest. Yeah. So I don't, as I said, it's to me, it's very clear cut. So you make it clear that is the agreement, and then if the person doesn't agree with what I got to say, that's okay, I'll walk away. I'm not doing it. I have refused to work with people for that reason. That's it.
Fair enough. Yeah, no. The more I understand it, the more I get it. It's just sometimes you're just so ignorant to the to the way things work.
Yeah. But you learn.
You do learn. Is there anything that you feel is an achievement for you? Like you've taken all these iconic pictures and everything, but do you ever stop and think?
No, not really, because, for me personally, it's different because I'm in the thick of it. I'm doing it. I'm the person that is doing it.
Yeah.
I think the achievement is what other people see.
Yes.
So that to me is the achievement. So when the achievement for me was when somebody comes up to me and says, Francesco, that photo of David Byrne or Talking Heads, I love it. I want to buy it because I want to put it in my living room. And that is a great achievement to me. Or when people buy, my prints, that's a validation really of you, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
In terms of a personal achievement, is the fact that the achievement for me is the fact that I can do this as a living. Yeah. And to be a creator and be able to make a living out of it, that is an achievement in itself. So I have huge respect for anybody, whether it's a musician or a painter or a photographer, anybody that is a creative that can make a living. I have total respect for them. It is.
It's one thing creating things, and then it's another completely different ball game. Monetizing that.
Yeah,
and
monetizing.
When you can, that's.
Monetizing is the word is the hardest thing because like with your fashion, for example, you work really hard, but people don't see your hard work. They don't know. It's not that people don't understand, and it's not there. They're not interested in your work. It's whether they like the finished article. Now, when you ask, let's say for sake of argument, you ask £500 for a dress, well, £500. But you don't know what's going into it.
Literally the amount of hours involved.
Exactly. Yeah, but people don't understand because that's the way it is. Now, also, it's exclusivity, isn't it? If you want that photo of mine, of David Byrne or Joe Strummer or whatever, or Pete Burns, well, there's only one of that because I've taken it.
And what I like about your work is that when I come across photos that have been done by you, like your people already know them, but they don't even know that you're the face behind the camera, behind the lens.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's so you see, you said to yourself now, that is kind of an achievement, isn't it?
Yeah.
When people recognize, I mean, there are many, some people they message me, Francesco, I've seen one of your photos. And some people say, oh, I know your photos.
Yes.
When they eventually realize that it's me.
Yeah. I've been in the hotel. Which one was it on? Where I saw them right by the stairway in the hotel.
The Baltic.
Was it the Baltic? Yeah.
The Baltic Hotel,
and I was like so excited. And obviously like I'm walking up the stairs and there's a couple of people walking behind me and I'm just excited and like you can't explain it to anyone. Can you like, oh?
No, and that's again, a lot of people, see, this is again how things happen. That there's a number of hotels that contact me. Mm-hmm. It's fascinating really because I didn't expect hotels to have, an affinity with that, with the kind of work that I do, mm-hmm. but remarkably they do, and I'm happy for it because it's good publicity for me.
Amazing,
and it's also again affirmation.
Yeah,
the people understand and value your work. Mm-hmm. I mean, I always say to people the validity of your work is if somebody buys it.
Exactly. So you did touch on what you're working on next and another book coming out.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else? And how can people get in contact with you?
Well, they can get in touch with me through, on Facebook and, mm-hmm. my page is public. So really, Francesco Mellina, just search. And they can contact me on Instagram, Francesco Mellina Photography. And then there is a website that they can look at called www.redbookart.com. And they can take a look at my work on that.
Awesome.
And they are just the basic platforms that I operate from.
Brilliant. I like to end the conversation with what I call fun fashion questions. I know you have something to say because let me tell you, one time Francesca came into my boutique on Smithdown Road with an original Vivienne Westwood shirt. So I know he's got a lot to say about fashion, but it's going to be about you. So my first question for you would be, what's one unusual item that you always have on you?
On me?
Yeah.
Well,
most of the time.
Most of the time, in fact, all the time, and believe it or not, but it's nothing to do with fashion. Mm-hmm. It's actually to do with me. There are two things. One is I always have some, lip balm.
Lip balm. Oh,
yes.
That's good.
I always have, and hand cream.
Okay. Oh,
so
good.
These are the two items that I have with me in my bag all the time.
All right. Brilliant. Yes. Have you got any item of clothing that you feel emotionally attached to?
Well,
it could be an accessory like cufflinks or anything.
Well, the things that I'm attached to really mm-hmm. is the one old Vivienne Westwood T-shirt.
Okay.
Not the shirt.
Yeah.
T-shirt.
That shirt you showed me, was it from what?
That was from 1981. So that was a Westwood McLaren. That was the last time that they were together, as in terms of fashion.
Yes.
That was the last collection that they did together.
Okay.
And I remember, I think I paid something like £25 in 1981, which doesn't sound a lot of money now, but
it'd be more like 700, 1,000
well, I mean,
now.
if I was to sell that, I would probably get £1,000.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, awesome. So what was the unusual item again?
It was lip balm and hand cream.
that was the in your bag.
Yeah.
But what about the unusual item?
With the unusual item of what?
Not unusual item. Emotionally attached.
Oh, emotional attached. I would say that T-shirt.
The T-shirt.
The
Vivienne
Vivienne was the T-shirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's from the original shop called Sex.
Oh, yes. Was that still on King's Road? Or?
That was on King's Road, yeah. So it's famous sign,
Yeah.
So that's kind of, there is an emotional attachment because in those days,
yes,
you could actually meet Vivienne Westwood because she used to be there.
Yeah.
And so, there is that kind of attachment because it reminds, it is emotional because of my youth and the people that frequented the place.
Yeah.
So that's
that was the era where she was involved with the music quite a lot, with the punk and everything.
Yeah. Well, that's what all the guys used to hang around there. I mean, admittedly, I never saw them. So the Sex Pistols I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So apparently they used to hang around there for obvious reasons. But as I say, that's my item has a certain emotional attachment. Yeah.
And if I had to ask you to define fashion, what's your personal definition of fashion?
My personal definition of fashion is to be comfortable with what you wear.
Amazing. Brilliant. Have you got any favorite shopping experience you can think of?
Favorite?
Or what do you like shopping for?
Aftershave.
Okay. Oh, nice. Do you have a favorite?
I have loads of favorites.
Oh, good.
So I love Van Cleef & Arpels. I love Angel Share by Killian.
Nice.
Oh, Killian's. And Gucci.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I have quite a few.
So what would you say you go for in terms of like the undertones and the smells and stuff? Do you know what you like? Or I
like fresh mostly.
Okay.
Yeah, so, citrus stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, it reminds me of home.
Yeah.
That's probably why. But that's subconscious, by the way.
Yes,
it's not that I do it on purpose. It somehow reminds me of home. So that's probably why I like them.
And do you have a not so favorable fashion memory or experience, or what do you hate shopping for?
I hate shopping for shoes.
Oh, really?
I hate it because I never find anything that either fits me properly or that I like. It's so difficult.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how do you go about that? You just literally shop for shoes when you have to?
When I have to, yeah, correct. Yeah.
Not for fun.
Not for fun. No, it's not for fun. Anything else I can deal with, but shoes are a pain. Mostly because I can't find anything that fits me well or indeed that I like. It's very difficult.
Oh, okay.
Find something plain and simple. It's so difficult.
I guess you could say that about clothes. That was probably one of the reasons why I always wanted to make my own clothes when I was younger, because I always had these ideas and I could never find what I was looking for. So,
Well, that's the best solution.
Yeah, exactly.
Make your own.
I actually enjoy making clothes for myself more than making them for anybody else. Although, like, I would happily make fascinators for anybody, anytime. But the clothes, the most joy comes out of making something for myself. That's why I tend to model my own clothes.
So you should.
Yeah. So last but not least, have you got any fashion-related question for me?
Well, as you work in the fashion industry,
yes,
what is it the hardest thing that you find?
Wow, the hardest thing is the fact that you have to constantly tell people about what you do and constantly get your name out there. Like, the job is never done. It's a constant knocking on doors. Like yourself, I knock on doors, but if nobody lets me in, I put my foot in and push the door in. So you do need all those things: determination, perseverance, belief in yourself, faith, and just always try and be clear about what you want and how you want to do it and have clarity about your journey. So for myself, it involves reinventing myself all the time because things change, times change, and you're as good as your last collection, as they say. So it's a constant always seeing what's going on, how you can be a better you, And that's just how I survive in the industry. It's not an easy industry. They say it's competitive and it's this and that. I've been lucky to make friends with so many amazing designers. But I have come across those designers that are just not ready to give you information or help you. Like, you ask them something that they can point you in the right direction. There are some like that, but I've been blessed to also meet so many amazing ones. So, yeah.
Lucky you.
Yes. And I just keep going and keep putting the doors if they don't let me in. And above all, writing my own story has been the most liberating thing for me, because as I've gone along the journey, I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to create my own rules. And if it's working for me, it's good enough. Yeah. So, I could go on and on.
That's perfect.
But we've come to the end of this conversation. It's been interesting. I'd love to have you back on and talk a bit more about photography and everything else in between. But for today, we're going to conclude this episode of Explore Your Identity. I just want to give a heartfelt thank you to all our viewers and listeners. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you found value out of this conversation, please share and let me know your thoughts. Until next time, keep exploring your identity. Explore Your Identity with Talamika.